Welcome once again to the FeelCast. I'm Maggie Forciedo. Today we are joined by Jessé Strauss from Geluk Psychology Services, who obtained her degree in psychology in 2019 at the University of Namibia. She is currently registered as an intern psychological counselor. Jessé, thank you for joining us on the FeelCast.
Hello, Maggie. Thank you for having me here today.
Today we are discussing the self.
Yes.
Can you please tell us what are the components of the self?
Well, there are so many words that we can use to describe how we feel about ourselves, what we think about ourselves, and also how we act towards ourselves. So some of the components are self-esteem. That is your subjective or an individual's subjective evaluation of their worth. Mm-hmm. And it also encompasses what you believe about yourself, like your self-belief. And then there's self-compassion. So being able to extend your self-compassion in moments of perceived weakness or failure. Then we also have self-acceptance. So that's also looking at being aware of your strengths as well as your weaknesses, but also having a very realistic and yet subjective appraisal of one's ability. And then the other components include, it has self-respect, which is a very important one, self-confidence, self-care, the one we do too little of, and then self-love. So all these components, they blend together, but they are very unique. They all have very unique and distinct meanings, and the value that they add are quite different to the self.
Like, who am I?
Yes, who am I?
Who's in this body? What's going on in here?
Yes, and you need to become self-aware and look at all these things and unpack these different components to sort of see, what do I think of myself? Do I extend myself some kindness once in a while?
At least.
What are my boundaries when it comes to self-respect and respecting those boundaries? So
Yes, absolutely.
it's very important.
And then what about self-love?
Self-love is an appreciation of yourself, and it grows from actions that we do to support our psychological well-being, but not only psychologically, physically as well, our mental and our physical health, because they go hand in hand. So self-love is a choice that we have to make. It's not easy. We don't always do it, but it's a conscious choice. And it looks different for everyone. There's no one size fits all type self-love package. It's not self-centeredness. It's not being selfish. Oftentimes it gets compared to narcissism, and they're actually two very different things. So whereas, narcissists believe that they are superior to others and they need...
Dangerous.
Yes, they have little regard for other people's feelings. They have a general sense of, lack of empathy towards others, and they have a self-importance, and they also constantly need appraisal, like external validation.
Which cannot be self-love.
No, it can't be, because self-love is the opposite. Self-love is, it reflects your regard for your own well-being, but you're also, you have empathy and humility towards others, so you can support and encourage others while loving
instead of
yourself.
doing the opposite.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Now, what about self-love languages? That sounds interesting.
That sounds interesting, and this is actually one of my favorite ones, because, we talk about the love languages when it comes to relationships and how we are towards others in relationships, how we communicate our love and how we show our love.
So it's kind of like behavior kind of thing.
It's behavior and little things you do. You show love. You can also speak it with words of affirmation. So those love languages that we do in relationships, you do it to yourself. So the self-love languages are the same. It's quality time. So what makes you feel good? What makes you
Yes.
feel closest to yourself? So that can be anything from going for a drive on your own, or doing something in the garden, spending time with yourself.
That my time can.
Your me time,
Yes.
it's actually it's things we know and we sometimes neglect to do.
Oh, absolutely.
And then words of affirmation. Be very careful how you speak to yourself, and speak lovingly to yourself. Speak love into yourself. Maybe, sometimes what people do is they put up sticky notes on the mirror, with words of affirmation, words of encouragement. Those little actions, they really do make a big difference in your life.
Yeah.
Gift giving. I know a lot of people love gift giving, but treat yourself once in a while.
Yes. Oh, I love that.
You know, don't feel guilty about it. And then also acts of service. Like, what is it? Showing some kindness to yourself. What is it that you need today that's going to make you feel a little less stressed? Or what do you need most in this moment? Like, if you're having a rough week, tell yourself, okay, I need rest this weekend. Let me make some time for myself and leave my work at work and go rest.
Which is sometimes very difficult,
No,
like switching off.
We don't like switching off. We like to be
know.
on it all the time.
Like all over the place.
Yes.
So what is the importance of self-care for your mental health?
Oh, it's very important. And I think it's one of the things that's sometimes overlooked because it seems like such a simple thing to do. But like I said, these small little acts that you can do. So self-care is just providing adequate attention to your physical and your psychological wellness. Yeah. So it encourages self-improvement. And it has, people have different requirements for what that self-care means to them. But in general, the goals of self-care is to find a state of good mental and physical health.
So does this mean now, like, your diet,
so little things
exercising,
yes,
and
it requires you to become self-aware as well.
Yeah.
So you need to do some introspection, and you need to look at situations where you need to, when certain emotions come up. Certain emotions come up because self-awareness is very important for people who struggle with mental illness, so that they know certain symptoms may flare up in certain situations. So then I need more self-care under these situations.
Yeah.
So self-care is there to reduce your stress, to try and find balance between your professional, your academic, and your personal life as well. So people can become aware of their thoughts, how they feed into their emotions and their behaviors. So then it helps you recognize activities that are necessary for you to get to a state where you are balanced and that you feel good. So it doesn't mean, self-care doesn't necessarily mean that it's a cure for physical ailments or mental illness. It's just something that helps you achieve and manage your symptoms better, or just balancing your life out better.
Yeah, absolutely. And, in conclusion, how can one improve on the relationship with the self?
Yes, that's a very important one, because if you think about it, the relationship with yourself is the one that you will have for the rest of your life. You can't divorce yourself.
It and you have to do something about it.
You can't break up with yourself.
Yes.
So practicing self-acceptance is one way to have a better relationship with yourself. Yes. Accepting yourself, knowing that you are exactly where you're supposed to be, perfectly imperfect. And it's about being in complete acceptance of your past as well as your present moments,
It reminds me of a friend I had when I was in the United Kingdom. She would always just stand in front of the mirror, and then she would do her hair, and then she would say, "You are so beautiful. You are gorgeous."
Oh, that's
but
amazing.
the way she expresses herself, it was just like, this girl is she's giving you that motivation and that encouragement from like, it's deep. I mean, saying that to yourself.
It is, and sometimes. We need to be careful how we talk to ourselves as well. We tend to do it so automatically, and negative self-talk that we have, we need to change it. When you become aware that I'm being very negative towards myself, there's a technique that we use in therapy is that, when you find yourself having negative thoughts, you need to catch it, and then you need to check it, and then you need to change it. So it's the 3 C's.
Yes.
Catch, check, and change.
Yes.
And that's how you start to, it becomes more like a practice and more consistent, that you are able to check yourself when you are being negative towards yourself. So how would you speak to someone you love? Think about that. And then being a very good friend to yourself, just
Spoil yourself.
Anytime you think negatively about yourself, what would you say to a best friend or a sister or a brother?
When
Think
they're feeling
about how you
down
would
or-
talk to them. And then you rewrite that script of how you speak to yourself. And then it's also, important that you invest time in yourself, like you said, 15, 30 minutes a day, just to do
least.
something for
Yes,
yourself.
yes.
And then when you hear your inner critic, that's where the 3 C's come in.
Yes.
You change that. And if you feel like you failed, don't be too hard on yourself. Practice loving kindness. Show compassion to yourself.
Yeah.
And then also take a few minutes a day to show some appreciation to yourself.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
stop and take a few minutes, observe how you're feeling, appreciate yourself, love on yourself, and then you proceed with the rest of your day.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, Jessé, this is so interesting. But we have come to the end. I thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
On the FeelCast. Well, that's all from me, Maggie Forciedo. You can join us again next time as we touch on compassion fatigue.